Okay, I want to continue, and I don't want to just sound redundant. But a lot of these things that we're saying on Wednesday night are just, they're not new, but they're new to some of us. They're new in the sense that we've never heard it before. And so I'm not going to reteach everything every week, but just some headlines. And the biggest one is out of when Paul told Timothy, rightly divide the word of truth. Rightly divide. If you wrongly divide it, you're going to be confused. And I've said before, I said it last week, that if somebody gets saved, they receive Jesus tonight, and we say, welcome to the family. We're glad that you're now in the family of God. We're going to give you a Bible, and we bless you, and we're congratulate you on your new venture. They're going to take that book home, look at it, and just naturally, you're going to start at page 1. That's where you start in every book. But if you start at page 1 in this book, you're going to be confused. You need help. We all need help in understanding this book. It's not easy, and it's not self-explanatory. Now it's easy to many of us because we've done it, we've seen it, we've studied it, we've heard it for years and years and years. But you take a brand new Christian and they say, this is what we believe. This is what we believe. They're going to start at page 1. And they're going to be confused. By the time you get over into Leviticus, and God's killing everybody and circumcising everybody, and yikes, what's that about? I mean, really. So when Paul said to rightly divide, okay, those of us, we've been in church a while, we've been taught that the dividing line is between Malachi and Matthew. Because it tells us right there, it says the New Testament. Somebody perhaps smarter than us who put all this thing together, put that page right there that says the New Testament. So, well, seems logical that that's the New Testament. But it's not. It can't be. If Matthew 1:1 is the beginning of the New Testament, then Jesus didn't need to die. He didn't need to go to the cross. He didn't need to be buried 3 days and 3 nights. The New Testament, New Covenant, synonymous terms, began when redemption, when the price for sin had been paid and redemption was enforced by the resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, I'm gonna take us a little bit different direction tonight. Again, I don't want to just keep repeating the same thing over and over. But some of these things, we always have new people, and it's just you hear it. You have to hear and hear and hear these things to really get them. Let's go to Matthew 27. I'll show you something. This is Jesus on the cross. Matthew 27. Verse 50 says, "And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit." He yielded up, or he gave up his spirit. Okay, what we know about people, human beings, 1 Thessalonians 5:23, we are a trichotomy. We are spirit, soul, and body. We are a spirit. God is spirit, we're spirit. We're made in His image. He's not a brain. He's not a body. He's a spirit. We are spirit because we're made in His image. We have or possess a soul. The soul, the Greek word for soul, is the Greek word suke. P-S-U-C-H-E. Suke. Does that sound familiar? P-S-U-C-H-E. That's where we get our psych words. Psychology, psychoanalysis. What does that have reference to? The mind, the will, the emotional part of man. So we are a spirit, we have or possess a soul. Now, sometimes the Bible uses the word heart. The heart, I believe, is a combination of spirit and soul. Talking about the heart of man. It's his spirit and his soul combined. And then lastly, we live in a body. This body is a temple, it's a house, it's a tent. All of those words are used in the Bible. A house, tent, tabernacle. That's what we live in. That's why when somebody, what we say when they die, when they pass away, we very often have a funeral. We've had many of them here. And in a casket right up here, at the close of that service, they'll come and open that casket, and there will be the house that they lived in, the empty house. They're not there. Where did they go? To depart from the bodies to be present with the Lord. To depart. That's what Jesus did. He gave up, He yielded up His spirit. Now, He didn't go to heaven, and we're going to get to that in a second. When you and I die, because we're born again, we go immediately to heaven. To depart from the body, Paul said, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. You're not floating around in some nebulous somewhere. You're in the presence of the Lord if you're saved, if you're born again. Okay, notice this. Then behold, verse 51, then behold the veil in the temple. The veil is the giant curtain, which historians tell us was something like 6 inches thick. Nobody could tear this thing. It was huge. The veil in the temple was torn from top to bottom. Top to bottom. Significant, because that tells us that God did it. God tore the veil, which makes entrance to, by His divine plan, gives us entrance into His presence. If it had been torn from bottom to top, we could speculate, well, somehow man did it. Man didn't do it. Man can't tear that veil from top to bottom. God did that. Verse 52, and the graves were opened. Many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised and coming out of the graves after His resurrection. Now, I want to back up here just for a second. And I'm going to show us, or I'm going to look at the significance of what happened on those three, from this point when He yielded up His spirit until that Easter morning when He was raised from the dead. Where is He? What is He doing? What's going on? Is he just laying in the tomb? We're going to look at that. But back up for just a second. Do you care if I just bust a balloon for you? This is going to upset some of you. Can I do it? Okay. Back up to verse 45. Now from the 6th hour, which is noon, Jewish time, or at least biblical time, the 6th hour, the first hour started at 6, the 6th hour was straight up noon. The 9th hour is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. From the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness over all the land. And about the 9th hour, or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Jesus cried with a loud voice. He says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Now I'm going to bust your balloon in a minute. Let's talk about something else. First time ever, Jesus references his Father as God. First time. He always, up until this point, calls him Father. But now, on the cross, when he's getting ready to die, and what we know by the Pauline revelation is that he is taking the sin of the world, which includes us. He's taking the sin and the punishment that goes with that sin on himself, and now he feels so separated and so away from God, or away from his Father, that he can't even say Father. He says, my God, my God. That great divide, that great separation came. Why? Because he's taking our place. He was the sinless lamb. He was the spotless lamb. He had no sin. He had no failure. He was the only one ever before or since that has ever lived a clean, spotless, sinless life. And he became the Lamb of God. Now, go to Matthew 12. Now I want to show you something. What happens when he died? What would he do? Matthew 12, verse 40. This is Jesus back sometime predicting or foretelling what's going to happen. Now, granted, they didn't understand it, but he's foretelling what's going to happen to him. Verse 40. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Some really significant wording here. Okay, let me go back to busting the balloon, okay? Every Easter, of course, Easter Sunday morning, and we celebrate, or churches celebrate Good Friday. Because they say Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But if you take the Bible for what it says, and there's no words in here accidentally, there's no words in here to fill up space. Every word means something. Jesus didn't say that I'm going to be in the heart of the earth for 3 nights or for 3 days. He said 3 days and 3 nights. It is impossible for him to have died on Friday because there's not 3 nights between Friday and Sunday morning. If he died at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, Friday night would be 1 night. Saturday night would be 2 nights. Then you've got Sunday morning. Where's the 3rd night? It's not there. He wasn't crucified on Friday. He's crucified on Thursday. 3 days, 3 nights. You've got to have Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, the resurrection Sunday morning. Interesting, isn't it? That's going to spoil some Good Fridays for you. What can I say? You know, it really doesn't have any significance in that other than it's just interesting. But you know, as I've said over and over and over, that God never puts words in the Bible to fill up space. They're there for a reason. Jesus says about himself, for as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights. Just do the math. in the belly of... You know what? I looked up today, the word great fish. You look it up in the Greek. In fact, I looked it up in my Greek lexicon, which I've brought it out here before. It's literally translated from Greek to English. And what that great fish, it's from the Greek, it means sea monster. I could bring it out here and show it to you. Sea monster. So it wasn't a whale. It wasn't a great white shark. It was something designed just for the purpose of Jonah. We're going to look at it in a minute. But look again. For as Jonah was 3 days, 3 nights in the belly of the great fish or the sea monster, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So what Jesus is predicting here, or foretelling here, is that when He gives up His Spirit, or when He yields His Spirit, or in His body dies, He is going to, and I'm just going to quote, the heart of the earth. And He's comparing His experience to that of Jonah and what Jonah went through. Well, we really just need to go to Jonah. You want to flip over there? It'll be on the screen. Jonah chapter 1. Let's compare what Jesus said. As Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth, so will the Son of Man. In other words, His experience is going to be like my experience when I go to the heart of the earth. Let's pick it up in Jonah chapter 1 verse 4. But the Lord sent out a great wind on the sea. There was a mighty tempest on the sea, so the ship was about to be broken up. Then the mariners were afraid, and every man cried out to his God, and threw the cargo that was on the ship into the sea to lighten the load. Do you see the typology here? These men are in a storm, and the first thing they want to do is try to fix it themselves. That's what people do today. They get into some sort of storm. They get into some kind of battle. They get into some sort of terrible situation, and they want to fix it. These guys, they start throwing things overboard. But it didn't fix it. Man's efforts never fix the problem. God has to give the answer. God has to give the supply. But Jonah had gone down into the lower parts of the ship and lain down and was fast asleep. Who does that sound like? Who did that? Jesus did that. Remember on the storm? Jesus went down to the bottom of the ship. He was fast asleep. Those guys, they were mad at him. Don't they know we're about to die up here? He was down there asleep. There is a comparison, a parallel here of Jonah and Jesus. Verse 6. So the captain came to him and said, "What do you mean, sleeper? Arise, call on your God. Perhaps your God will consider us so that we may not perish." Again, in typology, what do people do when they get into trouble? They'll try anything. They'll call 1-800-astrology. They'll go pay someone to read the tarot card. They'll do anything to get alleviation from their problem, but it's all human effort. It's all desperation. And the answer is always found in God and what He did in His Son. So they said to one another, "Come, let us cast lots, that we may know who caused this trouble that has come upon us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. And they said to him, "Please tell us, for whose cause is this trouble upon us? What is your occupation? Where do you come from? What is your country, and what people are you?" And he said, "I'm a Hebrew. I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." Jonah knew who he was. He knew who he served. Jesus knew who he was. He knew who he served. Jonah knew his mission. He wasn't obedient. Jesus knew his mission, and he chose to obey. Why? For us. For us. Verse 10. Then the men were exceedingly afraid and said to him, "Why have you done this?" For the men knew that he had fled from the presence of the Lord, because he told them. Then they said to him, "What shall we do that the sea may calm for us?" For the sea was growing more tempestuous. And he said, "Pick me up, throw me into the sea. Then the sea will become calm for you. For I know that this great tempest is because of me." What, from the sailor's standpoint, what is this tempest? What is it to them? It's judgment to them. They knew somebody's done something wrong. They knew somebody has messed up, and we're paying for it with judgment. And Jonah said, "Throw me over. Throw me over." He said, "When you throw me over, the sea will become calm, and every one of you in the ship will be saved." All of their efforts, all of the sailors' efforts, couldn't rescue themselves. They couldn't fix the problem. Even throwing stuff over, even calling out to their gods, doing whatever. They couldn't alleviate the storm, the judgment that was on them, until one person paid the price for all of them. Let me ask you this, and it's just kind of a think about question we don't have the answer to. Do you think all those men on that ship were perfect? Do you think any of those men on that ship deserved judgment? Were they all living so holy that they thought, "This can't be happening, I'm too good"? One man for all of them. One man in their place. That's Jesus. One man in our place. One man gave his life for us. One man went to the heart of the earth in judgment for us. Verse 13, nevertheless the men rowed hard to return to land, but they could not. See, they keep trying. They keep putting in their own efforts. For the sea continued to grow more tempestuous against them. Verse 14, therefore they cried out to the Lord and said, "We pray, O Lord, please do not let us perish for this man's life, and do not charge us with innocent blood, for you, O Lord, have done as it pleased you." See, they almost think we can't throw him overboard. God's going to get us for this. It's terrible. We can't throw this man overboard. And what do people think today? I've got to do something. I can't let him take it all. I can't let him pay all of my penalty. I'm the one that's done it. I'm the one that's messed up. I'm the one that sinned. But God won't let you share the punishment. It's one man for every man. That's what Jesus did. One man for the sin of the world. He's not going to let you help Him pay for it. He's not going to let you take on a little bit of it. He took it all. So they picked up, verse 15, so they picked up Jonah, threw him into the sea. Threw him into the judgment. And the sea ceased from its raging. The men feared the Lord exceedingly, and they offered sacrifice to the Lord and took vows. Now, remember, let's go back here in our mind for just a second. Jesus said, as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, or the sea monster. I like that better. In the sea monster, so shall the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth. For 3 days and 3 nights. What was Jonah's experience like? Verse 17. Now the Lord had prepared a sea monster to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. See, there's the parallel. Jesus said, and again we see it, 3 days, 3 nights. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord from the fish's belly and said, I cried out to the Lord out of my affliction. Now, as Jonah's saying this, keep in mind that Jesus is saying, this is going to be my experience. So let's hear Jesus saying this. I cried out to the Lord because of my affliction. And He answered me, out of the belly of Sheol. Now, Sheol is just a different Hebrew word for hell. It's just, I don't know why they use Sheol. It's just a different Hebrew word, a variation of hell. Out of the belly of hell I cried. In other words, Jesus is saying, like Jonah's experience, 3 days and 3 days, 3 days, 3 nights in the heart of the earth is hell. It's hell to me. Out of the belly of Sheol or hell I cried, and you heard my voice. For you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the floods surrounded me. All your billows and your waves passed over me. Then I said, I've been cast out of your sight. I've been cast out. Why would God cast out His Son? For us. For us. For us. It's the innocent for the guilty. It's the lamb for the unclean. Yet I will look again toward your holy temple. The waters surround me, even to my soul. The deep closed around me. Weeds were wrapped around my head. I went down to the moorings of the mountains. The earth with its bars closed behind me forever. Yet you have brought up my life from the pit, O Lord my God. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord. And my prayer went up to you into your holy temple. Those who regard worthless idols forsake their own mercy. But I will sacrifice to you with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay what I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord. So the Lord spoke to the sea monster, and it vomited Jonah onto dry land. That is what Jesus said is going to be like the experience that I'm going to have after I yield up my spirit. My body hangs lifeless on that cross. His soul and His spirit, His heart, descend into the heart of the earth to experience the punishment for the sin of mankind. What we see, if we could see, we see Jesus' body, lifeless body, hanging there. A Roman soldier walks up, thrusts a spear into his side, just make it double sure. And out comes blood and water. Blood and water comes out of his side. A type, blood, Jewish, water, non-Jew. Out comes from him the Jew and the non-Jew. Sin has been paid for the Jew and for the non-Jew. See, we don't see these things on the surface. You've got to dig for this stuff. He thrusts that spear and out comes blood and water. Normally, under the Roman killings like that, the crucifixions, they'll give them so much time, and then what happens if they're not completely dead? After they've hung there hour after hour and they still have some life in them, they'll break their legs. And when they break their legs, that somehow causes blood or whatever, that will kill them for sure. David prophesied that not one bone will be broken. See how all of this fits together like a puzzle. David, hundreds of years before, said not one bone would be broken. And Jesus yields up His spirit. He gives it up. His heart, His spirit and soul exit His body. His body drops, lifeless, limp. No reason to break His legs. He's dead. But they couldn't because David had already said, not one bone will be broken. So they take that body down. And you know the story over in Matthew, the thunders and the lightnings and so on. And someone says, surely this was the Son of God. So they take Him and they put Him in Joseph of Arimathea. Had a tomb. They put Him in that tomb, that body in that tomb. Where is He? What is He doing? He is in the heart of the earth, suffering the penalty for the sins of the world. Paying the price to satisfy the claims of justice that God demanded be paid. God can't just say, well, I'm just going to let sin slide. I'm just going to act like I don't see that. He is the epitome of just. He can't do that. All sin had to be paid for. And we can throw everything we want overboard, but it'll never pay. You'll never pay for your own sin. You can cry out to any God you want. There will never be an answer for the sin of mankind. It had to be one man for all. Throw him overboard. And when Jesus was thrown, as it were, into the heart of the earth, for 3 days and 3 nights, there He suffered. To where God said, that's enough. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. See, people get these crazy ideas that God can just say, well, King's X on that sin. Doesn't matter. It does matter. God can't just wink at sin or overlook sin or just act like you didn't do that. That's why all sin from Adam until the last person born in this dispensation could well be alive right now. All of our sin was paid for in the one man Jesus. And God said, that's enough. That's enough. Jonah, that sea monster came and just regurgitated him up on the shores. Blech. Hell did that to Jesus. Blech. Get out of here. Go, get. We've had enough. Go. And he was raised from the dead. And then he said, out of his own mouth, all authority has been given unto me. All authority is given unto me. He came out. He come up, the champion, the victor in God's eyes. You and I could never do it. I don't care how clean and squeaky and straight-laced you are, you're going to fail sometime. But Jesus didn't. And that's why He's the spotless Lamb of God. Let me give you one more. Back to the New Testament in Hebrews chapter 9. Christians have a hard time with this. And that's why we've got to renew our minds with this stuff. It's almost as if to some people, God, He can't be that good. You making it too good? Folks, we're talking about God. How can you say He's too good? That's absurd. God is love. Jesus, He is love. God is love. John said that of God. He is love. Of all of the things he could have said about God, He's power, He's mighty, He's all knowing, He's all this, He's all that, and it could all be true. But John said, God is love. And that's what the church has the hardest time with. We see somebody messing up or somebody making a bad choice or someone confused, someone doing something wrong. I can't believe they let them in church. Well, we let you. I'm just going to quit the church if you're going to let him in there. That's been said to me. Well, if you're going to let him up on that platform, I'll quit. Okay? You tell God that. Tell God that. Hebrews chapter 9. This will answer if we're honest. The church has a hard time with, when I say the church, I don't mean us in this room. I'm talking about just the church across the board. It's almost like we can't stand it if we think somebody's getting away with something. Folks, nobody's getting away with anything. The penalty, the brutal penalty for sin was paid. But it wasn't by the person. It was by the living Son of God. That's why Paul said, when you really understand the grace of God, it teaches us to say no to ungodliness. Okay, Hebrews 9, let's start at verse 11. But Christ came as high priest of good things to come, with greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is not of this creation, not with the blood of goats and calves, but with His own blood. See, he's comparing, he's paralleling the old covenant sacrificial system to what Jesus did. Not with the blood of goats or calves, but with His own blood. He entered the most holy place. Now you've got to see this. And again, there's no words in the Bible that are there just fill up space. Three important, critical words. Once for all. Once for all. Do you understand the ramifications of those three words? One time for all. Judgment was coming on us. We were in the boat. The judgment of the storm was coming. The coming our way, coming humanity's way. And Jesus said, I'll take it for all. Throw me over. The men on that ship, just like you and I, were a long ways from perfect. We're a long ways from your ideal. They probably deserved to be thrown over, some of them. Just like some of us. We deserve to be thrown over into the judgment. But one man said, I'll do it for everybody. One man said, I will take the punishment from God for the sins of the world once for all. And that's what Christians have the hardest time with. They think, well, once for all. Now, that probably means just up until you get saved. That's not what it says. Once for all. You say, well, that just tells people they can go sin. Once for all. From Adam to we're somewhere out here until the last human being is born in this dispensation. Once for all. Having obtained eternal redemption. Man. People say, it can't be that good. It can't be that easy. It is that good and it is that easy. Because you didn't pay for it. It's not easy on His end. It's easy for us because we're just the recipients of it. Once for all, having obtained eternal. What do you think eternal means? It doesn't mean, well, it's good till your next sin. Eternal redemption is eternal redemption. For if the blood, verse 13, for if the blood of bulls and goats, old covenant, the ashes of a heifer sprinkling the unclean, sanctifies for the puring of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered Himself without spot to God, cleanse your conscience from dead works to observe the living God. Again, the parallels, Old Covenant, the blood of goats and heifers, Once a year, the high priest goes in with the blood of a goat, the blood of an animal, sprinkles it on the mercy seat, and God said, okay, I'll take that for a year. But what Jesus did was eternal. It's eternal. He was thrown into the stormy waters of judgment for our sin. He went to the heart of the earth and there suffered unknown stuff. We don't know what he went through there. But we know God said, that's enough. The price is paid. Now, eternal redemption is available to whosoever will receive Jesus. That's how great our salvation is. That's how great our Redeemer is. It's not how hard I work or how much you throw overboard to try to stop the storm. It's what he did. And if I learn to depend on that, to fall on that, I fall at your feet, Jesus. For you are the Redeemer. I couldn't do it. I could never do it. But you did it. And what happens, and I'm going to close, what happens in people, in church people, that are so afraid somebody's going to get away with something? I can't go to church with them because they're dirty. We're always looking at external things. When we'll quit focusing on this kind of stuff and focus on Him, then our perspective changes. Then we see people differently. We see ourselves, but for the grace of God, go high. And something transitions in your heart as you grow. Because from a mental standpoint, you think, well, man, if God did all of that and one sacrifice and it's eternal redemption, hey, man, I'm in. Let's go have fun. You don't think like that. You don't think like that. You think, man, I'm in awe of how good God is. And if He would do that for me, and He did that for the world, then I want to put myself in a position to tell somebody that's lost, to tell somebody that doesn't know, to tell someone that's trying to bail water out of their boat of sin, to tell them what He's done. And our perspective then changes. Because it's not about us, how hard we work, how much we do, how separated we live. It's about what He's done. And that changes us. Let's bow our heads. Father, the more we